David Jones, Robert Half's annual salary surveys were conducted during the first quarter of 2010 and give an overview of the employment landscape and future outlook for the finance, banking and accounting sectors. What was the scope of these surveys?
There were two distinct surveys that were undertaken across Asia Pacific, one to all commerce and industry-based clients and one to all financial services and banking-based clients. The responses that we had were over 3,500, so it was very significant. And with the data, we were really able to distill down and focus on a number of key statistics and evaluate both what really employers are feeling in today's marketplace and also what employees are feeling about today's market as well.
The global economy has experienced a turbulent time over the last few years, and the Asia-Pacific region has not escaped this. Can you give us an overview of staffing changes that the finance, accounting and banking sectors have faced over the past 12 months and shed some light on what's in store for 2010 and 2011?
So the main thing is that markets, whether it's within commerce and industry or financial services, have definitely stabilised in all countries over the last 12 months. You can look at Asia Pacific and sort of draw some comparisons between countries and how they've performed. The stronger performing countries, or the countries that rebounded fastest from the downturn, would be Australia, Singapore and Hong Kong. Japan and New Zealand, albeit that their economies are perhaps at two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of size, you can almost put them in the same boat. They've perhaps followed more akin to what's been happening in North America and Europe in terms of their economies. The financial services markets have bounced back first in really all countries. I don't think that that's too unusual, given that they went into the downturn first, so that's pretty normal, as given what's happened in prior downturns around the world.
Now that there's a more positive outlook for the Asia-Pacific region, are we due to see more movement of employees around the region?
More movement is occurring. It's fair to say, though, that the majority of movement is happening within companies. It's not necessarily happening through third parties like ourselves. It does occur, but it would be wrong of me to say it's happening on a mass scale at the moment. People are still very much focused on cost and cost control, and expats are more expensive than local employees. And wherever possible, people are always looking to get talent from the local marketplace rather than look people internationally. Within an organisation, though, within a multinational, whether that multinational is within banking or whether that multinational is within wider commerce and industry, there is more international moves that are occurring in order to help retain their best staff members going forward.
Are there any gender-specific trends that have emerged through the Robert Half APAC salary surveys?
Well, I think over the last 12 to 18 months, people have had to work more hours. A number of people have had to take reductions in pay. So there's been somewhat of a trade-off. What are people looking for if they are working more hours or working for less money? For some people, that could be additional training and benefits and so on and so forth. In terms of gender specific, one thing that we are seeing is that the survey responses really showed that women are looking for greater flexibility over men, whether that be flexible working arrangements or the ability to be able to work from home. That being said, not all employers are able to provide that degree of flexibility in today's market.
There is a renewed level of optimism in the Asia-Pacific region. Has this resulted in an influx of job opportunities, or are employers still showing some reluctance to commit to hiring new staff? And are candidates in the finance, accounting and banking sectors feeling more confident about looking for new job opportunities?
If you look in all countries, employment rates are stabilising or going down. Job posting numbers are increasing. But there are really two types of jobs that are being offered, or the reason why vacancies are occurring. Those that are a result of expansive progression, as in terms of there are new jobs being created, or jobs being created as a consequence of people moving around. So people perhaps cut a little bit too deep in some countries within Asia Pacific during the downturn, particularly those multinational organisations, whether that's in banking or commerce, that were domiciled or headquartered overseas in Europe or North America, that could sort of see the extent of the downturn and try to get ahead of the curve, and then perhaps in some parts of Asia Pacific, most notably Australia, Singapore and Hong Kong, perhaps cut a little bit too deeply. The reality is, though, that people's sentiment is improving all of the time. So people are more confident about looking for new job opportunities, and that in itself is causing movement within financial services or within wider commerce and industry. So there's really two reasons for renewed optimism. Yes, there are more jobs being created, but as employees feel more comfortable, confident about their own job security, they are moving and looking for new opportunities.
Do employees in Hong Kong believe that their salary is in line with current market conditions?
Of all the responses that we had, Hong Kong actually gave us the lowest percentage in terms of the most amount of people being dissatisfied. So within financial services, only 30% or just under 30% of people are actually satisfied with their current level of remuneration. Within wider commerce and industry, it was higher, it's closer to 50%. The worrying statistic, perhaps more though, for the Hong Kong employers is that the employees won't really mention that to their employers. They would rather go and seek another opportunity rather than have a discussion or dialogue about how they're being remunerated at present.
How confident are employees in Hong Kong in their company's growth prospects? And has the upturn led to a more optimistic attitude?
It's kind of a mixed bag in terms of the responses. So on the one hand, overall people were pretty optimistic about companies or their employers' prospects of growing moving forward. But in terms of those respondents that thought that there would be no growth or even a decline in their business, it was actually the highest number of respondents from Hong Kong with 20%. That just may be a consequence of some of the ill feeling for some employees that they feel as a consequence of perhaps working more hours or doing more work over the last 12 to 18 months. And there clearly is a bit of a disconnect as well in terms of how people think that bonuses should be paid in Hong Kong. So there's much more of a feeling that it should be based upon one's own individual performance within the Hong Kong marketplace as opposed to that of the overall performance of the company.
Now that the job market has become more buoyant, how open are Hong Kong employees in the finance, accounting and banking sectors to discussing salary expectations?
So I guess here the key learning here for employers is that they really are not. And the survey responses show that 4 out of 5 respondents within financial services, a little lower than commerce industry, feel that they have to seek another job to get to remuneration review, and they won't even consider discussing it with their present employer. And that in itself is a pretty scary statistic. So I think the extent to which people can be more involved in formal reviews, perhaps whereby the employer can sort of push the envelope with the employee and try to bring it onto the table and get some dialogue around what expectations are, that will be to the advantage of the employers out there.
How did the economic downturn affect work-life balance for finance, accounting and banking staff in Hong Kong?
Well, the reality is that those employees that work in the Hong Kong marketplace value climbing the corporate ladder or progressing their careers over work-life balance and some of the other countries within the region, most notably Australia and New Zealand. So I think the reality is that people are okay with working considerably longer hours in Hong Kong, provided that they're being remunerated. The question is, are they being remunerated at a market level? And where bonuses are applicable, what's been the impact on bonus payments in 2009 and likely to be in 2010?
Are there any industry sectors in Hong Kong that you predict will be more buoyant in the next 12 to 18 months?
The area within commerce and industry where we're seeing buoyancy right now, and it's likely that we're going to see that going forward, is actually within the luxury brands sort of marketplace. There's an awful lot of influx of money coming in from foreign luxury brand firms into the Hong Kong marketplace. Maybe that's because they're sort of traditional markets within North America or Europe a little bit depressed, and of course Hong Kong being in some ways the gateway to mainland China. Within financial services, really, there's I think that areas within technology. There's been an awful lot more sort of capex spend within technology within the banking arena, and just general hiring within middle and back office. Those areas were really quite savage during the downturn, as there was an anticipation of something more akin to the Asian global or the Asian financial crisis as opposed to the GFC. And those areas we're seeing come back online now, and we see no reason why that won't continue going forward.